What's going on, everybody? Mr. Red, White, and Disclosure. Last night on my live feed, we talked a little bit about a UFO crash that happened near my house in 1992, about 10-15 minutes away from me. And it never got any notoriety. It never got any limelight. It never was brought up in the public. It's never talked about in any UFO or alien documentaries or TV shows or anything like that. And I haven't heard any ufologists or anybody in the UFO community, or even on YouTube, some of the bigger UFO pages, talk about this particular crash and this particular event. So I wanted to give this event its due, you know what I'm saying? And I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted it to be known. Because, things like this should not go unnoticed. And this thing was covered up to the fullest. And no witnesses have ever talked. So you can clearly see an article, and this is coming out of the National UFO Crash Database. So there's an actual database and there's an actual site. And it will give you every single supposed UFO crash throughout history in the country for the United States of America. And one of those crash sites happens to be in Lockport, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo, New York. It's about 15 minutes away from Buffalo. And this event actually happened on April 15th of 1992. Now I'm going to go ahead and read this article for everybody, because a lot of people don't know about this actual crash site. And you would actually be surprised on how many crashes there actually are in our country. There's a shit ton. I counted, close to 50 since the 30s or 40s. So the government has got their hands on a lot of UFO technology over the years. And this is one of the occasions, people. So let's go ahead and read this article here. Now, again, this happened on April 15th, 1992. In Lockport, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo and a suburb of Niagara Falls. And it states, on April 15th, 1992, a large disc-shaped craft was observed coming out of the lake. And by lake, they mean Lake Ontario, because Lake Ontario is close to Lockport. So they observed a disc-shaped craft coming out of the lake and then flying erratically south towards Lockport. The object appeared to wobble and moved lower, appearing to be in trouble. Observers claim it appeared to search for a landing spot. Continued to lose altitude and crashed on Campbell Boulevard, which is Route 270, 4 miles west of Lockport and 10 miles north of Buffalo, New York. When the UFO crashed, it managed to avoid hitting cars that were traveling on the road. However, the drivers of the car stopped to examine the UFO, and most waited until the police arrived. The UFO was 100 feet in diameter and 25 feet high. The military, the fire department, and the police quickly arrived and cleaned up the crash site and cautioned those that were there not to talk about the incident. And somehow the authorities were able to keep this crash very, very quiet, and only the family members of those who observed the crash, the witnesses, have been told about this event. So that's pretty crazy, people. A UFO crash not too far from my house 20-something years ago in 1992. And, there was multiple witnesses for this event. There was witnesses near the lake that watched this UFO actually fly out of Lake Ontario and head towards Lockport. And then there were several witnesses on Campbell Boulevard that night, driving alongside the road, driving down the road, when they spotted a UFO wobbling around in the sky looking for a landing spot and they witnessed this thing actually crash in a field off the side of the road. Now, like I said, there was multiple witnesses for this, and this event was never talked about. You know, there was a couple witnesses seen it at the lake, and there was, 3, 4, or 5 of them on Campbell Boulevard that night that witnessed this event. And this thing has been kept under lock and key. It has been hush-hushed. Nobody has talked about it. Now, there is a military base not too far from the crash site, probably about, 5 to 10 minutes away from the actual crash site. There's a Niagara Falls Air Force Reserve Base, so I'm pretty sure that was the military that responded that night to keep this thing quiet. And how they were able to keep this event quiet for all these years, I'll never know. It's the government. They're good at what they do. But like I said, this event never got any exposure, and we need to talk about these crash sites, people, because the government got their hands on UFO technology that night. So not only did we get stuff during Roswell, there's tons other crash sites and UFO crashes over the years, people, where we've gotten our hands on UFO technology and perhaps even gotten our hands on alien life and actual real bodies, people. Fucking bodies. So where they were taken, I do not know. I'm sure they were probably taken to the Niagara Falls Air Force Reserve Base for a while, until they were probably shipped off to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is not too far to the south from us in Ohio. They probably got all this scattering of the wreckage and probably the ETs and their bodies. So, here you go, people. I'll read it one more time for you. A large disc-shaped UFO was observed coming out of Lake Erie and flying erratically south towards Lockport. This was on April 15, 1992. The object appeared to wobble and moved lower, appearing to be in trouble. Observers claim it appeared to search for a landing spot, then continued to lose altitude and crashed on Campbell Boulevard, Route 270, 4 miles west of Lockport and 10 miles north of Buffalo. When the UFO crashed, it managed to avoid hitting the cars traveling on the road. However, the drivers of the cars stopped to examine the UFO, and most waited until the military and other people arrived to get there. So this is a crazy event. We need to try to find the witnesses for this event, and I'm going to actually try to hunt down the witnesses for this event and see if we can interview them and see if we can get them to talk all these years later. I'm going to have to do some digging, but I'm going to try my hardest. This is Red White Disclosure signing off, people.